All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down an absolute thriller, the men's 100-meter final at the 2026 Glasgow Commonwealth Games. We're going to trace the anatomy of a truly legendary, kind of underdog-adjacent story of athletic triumph. Specifically, we are tracking the unbelievable journey of Australian sprinter Lachlan Kennedy as he chases down a historic silver medal. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this with a quote straight from the broadcaster's booth during the live race. As they watched the runners cross the finish line, a commentator exclaimed, "I would have sworn Lachlan Kennedy was going to take that one 5 meters out, right?" That perfectly captures the sheer shock and dramatic tension we saw. For a split second, Kennedy thought he had it. The commentators totally thought he had it. So how did this incredibly dramatic finish actually unfold? Well, let's rewind the clock a bit.
To really get why this climax was so wild, you've got to understand the setup. These athletes were stepping out onto the track in Glasgow facing notoriously cold conditions. I mean, literally freezing track conditions. Not exactly a sprinter's best friend, right? But the real shocker actually happened in the semifinals. The heavy favorite, Kenya's powerfully built Ferdinand Omanyala, was surprisingly eliminated. He just didn't have the legs on the day. So with Omanyala out of the picture, the stakes absolutely skyrocketed. We were guaranteed a brand new champion, and that gold medal was entirely up for grabs.
Now, what's really interesting about these lane assignments is how the blistering semi-final times perfectly position three absolute titans side by side for the ultimate showdown. In lane 3, we've got Australia's Lachlan Kennedy coming in hot with a 994. Right next to him in lane 4 is the 21-year-old Nigerian phenom Kola Ajaya, also clocking a 994. And then in lane 5, Cameroon's Emmanuel Aseme, boasting a 989, which was a brand new national record for him. These blazing times packed them so tightly together, guaranteeing an absolute war right in the center of the track.
But before we fire the starting gun, let's focus on our main guy for this explainer, Lachlan Kennedy. This Brisbane native is not your traditional track product. He actually played junior rugby union in Australia. And if you know anything about rugby, you know it demands incredible lower body burst and acceleration. Well, that background translated flawlessly to the track, turning Kennedy into a notoriously quick starter. And honestly, in a race where the heavy favorite is gone, a lightning-fast start is exactly the weapon you need to steal a gold medal.
Okay, let's freeze time and see how this builds. The gun goes off, right out of the blocks. In that critical 0 to 50-meter phase, Kola Ajaya gets a fantastic start in the green of Nigeria. But Kennedy, utilizing that explosive rugby power we just talked about, matches him absolutely stride for stride. Then, as they move into the 50 to 90-meter phase, Kennedy does something unbelievable. He actually takes the outright lead. It's only in those final, agonizing 10 meters that the Cameroonian, Emmanuel Aseme, produces an astonishing surge to shake up the entire podium.
Actually, I want to pause on that crucial middle phase, the 50 to 90-meter mark. Kola Ajay is a phenomenal talent, right? He had just won the Diamond League in London with a 9.84 a week prior. Normally, Ajay might look a little tight in the first 50 meters, but then he just puts his foot down, increases his cadence, and pulls away from everyone. But not today. Kennedy tactically chased him down, keeping him under such intense, relentless pressure that he literally wore the Nigerian into deep fatigue. He completely neutralized Ajaya's trademark late-stage acceleration. It was brilliant.
So Kennedy did everything necessary to win. He broke the man next to him. 5 meters out, he was in the outright lead. But then, as we freeze-frame the climax, you have to look over at lane 5, channeling the sheer awe of the commentators here. Over the last 10 meters, he must have taken 1.5 meters out of them. It was astonishing. Right at the very second Kennedy thought he had this race in the bag, Aseme just roared through those final stages.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate test of mind over matter in a lead sprinting. When you have two runners like Kennedy and Ajaya battling it out just ahead of you, human instinct is to tense up, to try and force the speed. Most people would have tightened up in that exact scenario, but Aseme didn't. He maintained flawless, relaxed sprinting form through that intense physical fatigue and immense pressure from his rivals. He just stuck at it, letting his mechanics do the work while the others felt the heat.
So let's break down the final numbers. Emmanuel Aseme crosses the line at 9.83, securing a brand new games record. But right behind him, Lachlan Kennedy stops the clock at a staggering 9.85. Make no mistake, while Kennedy just barely missed the gold, this was not just your average silver medal. That 9.85 is a massive area record for Australia and Oceania. It's a truly superb silver that fundamentally rewrites the record books for his entire region.
So the crucial point here is just how razor-thin this margin actually was.
The winning time of 9.83 was a mere 0.02 of a second quicker than Kennedy's massive new Australian record. In a frozen TV shot at the finish line, it honestly looked like there was way more daylight between them, but the clock tells the true story. 0.02 of a second. That is literally all that separates a historic gold from a monumental silver.
And you know what makes Kennedy's performance, and this final as a whole, so incredibly special? It can all be summed up by the number 4. We have waited years to witness a sub-10-second Commonwealth final, and here, in those freezing Glasgow conditions we talked about earlier, we saw a staggering 4 men run sub-10 seconds. It completely cements this event as an all-time great Commonwealth final. The level of competition was just absolutely sky-high.
Lachlan Kennedy went to Glasgow, matched the absolute best in the world stride for stride, broke down a Diamond League champion, and walked away with a monumental 9.85. So I'll leave you with this. With a massive new 9.85 Australasian record under his belt, how will Lachlan Kennedy shift the balance of power in global sprinting heading into the next Olympic cycle? This silver medal definitely isn't an ending, it's an explosive new beginning. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes on the track.